I'll be doing my speech over sex trafficking. According to the Polaris Project, more than 14,000 total cases of human trafficking have been reported to the National Human Trafficking Resource Center hotline. The hotline receives an average of 100 calls per day. Thousands of women and children all over the world are sold into sex trafficking by family, relatives, or even friends. They suffer all kinds of psychological and physical pain that you can probably not even imagine. I can't imagine one of my friends going through that kind of pain, and I would want to do everything I could to prevent it. I don't know about you. I have done extensive research with organizational websites and articles that have shown that human trafficking is something that happens all over the world. It is targeted towards women and children, and it can be easily overlooked, and it's also becoming more organized in the crime world. Sex trafficking is something that is a growing problem all over the world and can be minimized with just awareness. There are so many international issues, but I believe that sex trafficking is a continuously growing problem. So I'm going to show you first who is affected by sex trafficking, how to recognize sex trafficking, and what can be done about it. So first, let's look at who it affects. Sex trafficking mostly affects young children and women. The U.S. Department of Justice says that the average age of entry in the prostitution for a victim in the United States is 13 to 14 years old, and approximately 300,000 children are at risk at being prostituted. Looking at Thailand and Nepal, they are both the leading transit countries for sex trafficking. It is well known that Thailand is dangerous for young women. Thailand is a transit country for victims from places like North Korea, China, and Pakistan, and they're destined for countries such as Malaysia, Russia, Western Europe, and even the United States. An organization called Tiny Hands International said something that kind of caught me off guard, and I was very troubled by it. They said that women from Nepal and their traffickers are not required to show any form of ID as they cross into India. When these women reach their destination, they quickly learn their fate. So what they do is they basically just kidnap these women, and they take them across the border and no questions are asked. That to me seems outrageous. It's just crazy. Here in the United States, I don't think anything like that could ever happen, but it does, surprisingly. People do it all the time. But in foreign countries, it's much more common and much easier. So it is a growing problem, especially in foreign countries. But sex trafficking is still illegal, and it is difficult to find any concrete numbers on the amount of victims. But according to Thailand Volunteering, who is partnered with Foundation for Women, the number of women in this trade is estimated to be 2.8 million, one-third being minors. The rate of HIV infection is 50% or higher among female prostitutes in northern Thailand. Looking at this information, human trafficking industry is valued at $31.6 billion per year, and 80% of the victims are female, and of that, 50% are underage. If you look at the chart, you can see that the majority of victims are brought into the United States each year, 50,000 per year into the United States. All of this makes human trafficking number 2 on the fastest criminal industry, and that's pretty scary. But branching off of those facts, let's talk about how to recognize sex trafficking. You might ask, how is it done, and what are the signs? Well, here are a couple examples from humantrafficking.org. Sex trafficking can be found at escort services, bars, strip clubs, and even massage parlors. Signs that might be a victim include malnutrition, dehydration, sexually transmitted diseases, signs of rape or sexual abuse, bruising, broken bones, and diabetes, post-traumatic stress, or even psychological disorders. Those women and children do not want to do this, but are coerced by fear and intimidation. I found a few good questions that you could ask yourself if you run into someone that you think could be a victim of sex trafficking. So the first question would be, does the person have any valid passport, an ID, anything that can identify them, and are they in possession of it? What is the pay, and what are the conditions of employment? Has the person or a family member of this person been threatened? And how did the individual arrive to this destination if the suspected victim is a foreign national? There are also different methods due to trafficking, and here you can see what they are. So the first is just tempting job offers, enticing children with fantasies such as roles in movies and things like that, and coercing parents into selling their daughters to settle their debt, and so on. It happens a lot in foreign countries. Mothers have to sell their daughters to these people that they owe money to just to settle their debt. Not that they always want to, but sometimes that's the only resort they can come to, or else they'll all die. It's a very tragic thing and very sad, but it is something that happens even today. With all of this information, though, you might be asking yourself, well, what can I do? The first thing is just to stay aware. You can also donate to organizations that are already fighting trafficking, such as the United Nations Foundation, and organizations that help survivors of sex trafficking, such as Free the Girls. You can call the National Human Trafficking Resource Hotline and report any tips that you might have on suspected sex trafficking. So, decreasing human trafficking obviously is a good thing. The U.S. Department of State says that by volunteering to do victim outreach or offering your services to a local anti-trafficking organization, you can make a huge impact. They also say that students can take action on their campus, join or establish a university or secondary school club to raise awareness through your local community. Sex trafficking is something that affects us here in our own town, our country, our state, and even foreign countries, and can be reduced by just being aware. So I like to think of sex trafficking as kind of like an anthill. Basically, you have an ant. All these little ants build up this hill, and they maintain it. Same thing with sex trafficking. If every single person helps every individual to help build a hill against sex trafficking, it will be greatly reduced. So I just encourage you to think about that and be aware, stay aware, and take action. Thank you.